Ben. I was here last time, but we have done a lot with this thing over the last 1 or 2 years. And I want to show you all about this. Actually, what I'm showing now is the version we've just finished developing this morning. So we're currently testing it. So I'm gonna test with you live here, and let's see if we see any bugs or any errors. But at least you can see the latest stuff. So I think that's maybe something. Yeah, Measure Killer is an external tool. Most features are free, but there's also a paid version. I'm gonna focus on the free versions, but then also if we have time towards the end, I'm gonna show the paid stuff, some cool stuff there in the Power BI service. But mainly what you can do with this is identify unused columns and measures in your Power BI models and reports. And I have one report open here, and just like other external tools, you can launch it through the external tools ribbon, or just by opening it up and then just connecting to Power BI, the local instance of Power BI on your machine. So you need to download and install it, and then now I'm just running it on a single report. Yeah, let's just see what we get out of this. So you can see here that I get this little summary on the bottom left, which shows me how much of the size of my report is used and is not used. And by that, it's just we take all it's the uncompressed size, like what you see also in Vertipack Analyzer. And then we just tell you basically column by column what is used and what is unused, and obviously for measures as well, but they don't have a size. But we just want to indicate how good or how oversized your model might be. So basically, that's the first thing you might get, or the first thing you want to look at maybe. Then we also have something like if you have local date tables, and I don't know, many-to-many relationships, which I try to give a little overview. But maybe let me explain a little bit what it means when we say something is used or unused. So I can use a column, right, in a relationship. I can build measures on top of a column, or calculated columns. But we can also use stuff in visuals, right, in conditional formatting, um, filters. We even track if you're doing something in Power Query. So if I can search here through all the levels, and then I can also see, for example, that one of the columns in my model has a Power Query reference, and then I can right click and I can get its M expression, and I can just even search here to double check if Measure Killer is lying or not. So we expanded this quite a lot to show you everywhere you have artifacts used. And as you can see, the red ones are the ones completely unused. So those will be suggested for deletion. And then the other ones are used somewhere. And then I can, for example, sort by the number of uses. And I can see the profit measure is used most widely across the report and model. And I can see exactly in which measures it's used. So this is a measure itself, but it is referenced in other measures, for example, the year-to-date profit measure. And that one is red here. So that one itself is not used, but it's used in other measures that are used. Yeah, you have to get used to it a little bit. But then, of course, also the measure is referenced in visuals as well. And we have the visual titles here, or if the visuals do not have a title, we just give you the type of the visual, and I can see in which page of the report that is. And for the nerds among you, we can also get the visual definition. That's the messy JSON we have to look through to find everything. Yeah, so we try to expose a lot of the information that we need to run this tool. We only need the metadata, so it only analyzes metadata of the reports and models. And then also, yeah, we try to show that as much as we can. You can also export everything to Excel and JSON, where you get a lot more than, maybe I can quickly show it. We get a lot more than what is in the UI. For example, we have all the DAX expressions there. That's something that people like. This is it. So basically, yeah, I have all the artifacts, all columns and measures here, and then you can see for those measures, I get all of the DAX expressions. You can see how often it's used. I can even then see, I don't know, where it's referenced. If it's referenced in another measure, I can see that expression. Visual IDs, titles, subtitles, width, height of a visual, like some stuff. Right? Maybe it's useful for you. By the way, if you have any questions, please just go ahead. I don't want to talk for 45 minutes.
I'll ask you a question then.
All right.
So there was this switch from the PBIX to the PBIP where things suddenly became a lot more readable. So how did that change what you do?
Right. So far, it hasn't changed much for us because the report definition is still the same. So that's really the tricky part to analyze the report layout or report definition. The model has been pretty straightforward and most external tools run that, but the report layout, that was the really tricky part. And that is also where we invested most time. And that is not in a new format yet, but it will come, right? They announced this at SQL Bits and the Fabric conference, I guess. It will come out maybe end of the year. And that will make our life easier because then we can really be, I guess, almost 100% sure that whatever we're doing is correct. But right now, it's not that sure every time. I would say 1 out of 1,000 times we still get something wrong because it's a real mess and there's all kinds of false references all across the report layout. Like if you copy paste a page, some of the references get copied even though you update something. There's like some skeletons in
It's
the
like a
closet.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a memory
and
a little bit. Yeah.
it's not really 100% correct. So I hope that they will fix this with the enhanced report definition that they announced. We're also getting some early input, early view on this, but yeah, so that will be a big adjustment for us. But so far, over the last 2 years, we had to do very, very little actually.
Yeah, so I guess what I infer from that is that the PBIX format is just a binary encoding of what the JSON in the PBIP. There's no
Yeah,
real
it's
difference in
not really.
store. Yeah. Okay.
No,
Thank
not
you.
really.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you unzip the PBIX, you end up with the same JSON files pretty much. The model, I mean, the TIMDL, that's different, right? But that just, I think, came out in desktop a few weeks ago. So yeah, it has been more announcement than change so far, I would say. But yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Yeah. So you can see this column here, it has a key, right? That's something we just added in this version. If you mark a column as a key column, then we have it here. We can say it's used as a key column. We didn't have that before. That's what's something that we were missing so far. Obviously we have calculation items, calculation groups, right? Field parameters, all this stuff. So we try to cover everything because the goal is that nothing breaks down what we suggest to delete. So I can go through this, or I can just say, hey, okay, let's get rid of everything, right? And then I can go to the killing, and there we can do measures and calculated columns by writing to the model directly, just with other tools. So I can just go ahead now and oh, actually, this is interesting. Did I open this up before? Or is the year to date? Oh, those are used now. Okay, so I did change something. Okay. Anyway, so I can just remove I don't only have 3 artifacts here that are unused. For example, this year-to-date profit. I just go to kill all, or I can do a C# script to execute in other tools. I'm just gonna go to kill all, and you can see that it will just disappear in a few seconds from the measures here. No, does not. What's going on here? Is the red report? Let me open this up again. Or maybe that's the first thing that already is going wrong since I'm showing this brand new version, which we haven't tested yet so much. Let me do this again. Sorry. I don't know. I opened it up before. Maybe that's what went wrong. Nope. So here are the measures. All right. Run. So here we are again, those three, and I'm just removing those. And oh, here we go. So now it worked. I don't know. Yeah, if you open multiple files at the same time with the same name, that could lead to problems, obviously. So yeah, then it's just gone. And some people might say, oh, wow, that's risky. I'm just removing stuff and then they're gone, right? Well, I mean, obviously, it's always good to keep backups. And only when I hit save here, it will actually finalize those changes. But we also have a restore. And you can see here that I have all my backups here. So everything I ever deleted on this machine, or like I put this actually in a OneDrive. So I have a OneDrive folder for all the Measure Killer removals. You can set this folder path. So across all the machines, across our whole team, we basically remove everything into that folder. And what I just removed were those three things here. And you can see it's just backing those up, and I can restore them back in if I want to, just by clicking this button. And then boom, it's back here. You can see year-to-date profit is back, including the formatting and everything. So it's a really cool way to put everything back in the model. Yeah, so that's how we can remove measures and calculated columns. The normal columns, Power Query columns, those we can take out, not automatically, but semi-automatically, I would say, because it generates us a new M code for every query, every table that has unused columns. And then I can either do a remove columns, Power Query, or remove other columns, which is this table.select columns. This is probably a best practice, so I'm going to choose that. And then I just go into Power Query and basically replace the old M code, and basically it will just add one step at the end. I have to authenticate again because I'm changing the users all the time. But it just adds one step at the end of my transformations, so this is how the table looked before, right? And then Measure Killer just takes out the columns that it doesn't need. And I can always change this step or even remove the whole thing if I want to go back to the original state of my report. So once I hit and apply those changes, it just takes a little bit to load this. This is not a lot of data. And then I can obviously run this again. And the goal is to reach 100% used, right? I have only done this for one query. So we're at 89%, which because it was the biggest query. But we want to end up with 100% used to have everything out that we don't need. And that's the goal of our little optimization here.
Gregor, did you see Fernando's question in the chat? Do you know? He says,
Actually,
what does
I don't have.
X% used by unused? He said, what does X%
Oh,
used unused mean?
so this is yeah, so this is something very interesting, and let me open it. So I don't have any, so this is 0, right? But I'm gonna open up a second report, a bigger one, bigger model. And there we can see what this used by unused actually is. Because we only had used and unused so far. But now I'm gonna show you what this used by unused, and that's kind of specific. So I just ran this on a single report, but I can also run this on the shared data set, and that's also part of the free version, right? So this is pretty cool. I can have I need to have all the files locally, but it can be a shared data set in the Power BI service. So I can have live connections to a model. I need to download all the Power BI reports and the data set. I open the data set on my computer. I run this mode, and then basically I can analyze a shared model that way, and find everywhere across all the live connected reports where stuff is used from my centralized model. And those 4 reports here, those are the ones connected to this model in the Power BI service, and I just drag and drop them in here, and then it will make them part of our analysis. And you can see now this is a big model, right? 2.5 gig. It's not small anymore. And here also we have a tiny little bit used by unused. And I showed you before, when I open this up, I can see where this is used, right? And you can see some of the things where it's used, they are unused themselves. But the yellow ones, they only have unused. So they are used, the H column is used somewhere, but it's only used in artifacts that are completely unused themselves. So that's basically what this means, because we will remove all the red ones. And when we did that, the yellow ones will become unused themselves. So the yellow ones will turn red. Once I remove the surrogate key, let me do this actually. I'm just going to remove this single surrogate key calculated column. Remove, boom, it's gone. Oh, and now it says one new unused artifact has been found. Actually, it shouldn't be S, but anyway. People age, right? That's the age column. And see, now age is red. It was yellow before, but now it's red because now it's unused, because it was only used in that calculated column, which we just removed. So that's why we actually introduced a third status, because before it took multiple runs and you really didn't know before. But now we will tell you already before that this will end up being deleted at some point as well. Yeah. So here I have this shared model, right? I added like 4 live connected reports, and then I can also see across those reports. Those are the names of the reports, where everything is used, and in filters, visuals, whatever. And here we also have, if I have live connected reports, I also see the report level measures here. We're not gonna remove anything. We don't really deal with that because we're focused on the model, right? But I can still see all my report level measures in the measure killer output and can get their DEX expression. So I can see what people are doing there, what they're building, if they're ending up using stuff, or it's just dead report level measures in those live connected Power BI reports. So I really don't see any questions because I don't know, my chat hasn't come up on the phone yet.
No, there's none
So,
others there.
all right.
Yeah, my question is, which of my things are you storing in your private cloud? I'm just joking. You're not you're not taking
We
anything
have
back.
nothing. We
Yeah.
have nothing. We don't know anything about how people. So we're really focused on security because that's the biggest worry whenever people reach out, they who want to use it. So basically, we don't really get anything. Whatever is happening is either locally on your machine and stays there, or it's when we run it in the Power BI service, it's REST API calls between the client and Microsoft, or XMLA connection between the client and Microsoft.
Thank you for that confirmation. Fernando's asking, and maybe he's asking if you could do again the Power Query. I don't know if you can zoom
Sure.
in a little bit or somehow make
Oh,
it
sorry.
bigger.
Yeah. Let me zoom in, actually, because yeah, I have a big resolution here. So this looks a little strange. Oh. Is that better?
It's bigger. I don't know.
Wait.
What do the rest of the group
Let
thinks?
me let me turn down my resolution a little more. Let's do this. Yeah, should be better, huh? Is that good?
um, we can keep going. What do you guys think? I don't know what Fernando, you sent something.
That's actually worse than magnifying,
Oh,
This is
really?
worse? Really?
from what I can see. Yeah,
Okay.
the
Is this
magnifier
better?
looked better. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, there's nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So that was it, I guess. So yeah, that's just right. I have all the, so I have how many tables? I have 6 tables in my model, but so only 4 of them have unused columns. So the ones that have unused columns will show up here in the kill columns pane, and then I can see the total size I can save by copy pasting that query into a Power Query, right? So we can do the people column or people table. So I just copy this code, and I go into Power Query, and I go open up people, and then I just paste this in, and you can see it keeps the old query, and it just adds this one step at the end, where it basically takes out the columns that we don't want. And this is a really big model, so if I start loading, this will take a little bit, but yeah, so it just, takes it out like you do it manually, basically. And of course, about query folding, and you should do it maybe first. Yeah, all this is true, but we don't really, it's not that smart, right? So that's then up to you, but it just tells you what you can take out. Is that good enough?
I don't know, Fernando, if you had any any further questions. He says good enough. Um, I'm trying to think if there's an example where could you infer that columns should be hidden in the DAX view? Not that they can't be removed, but somehow be. I'm not sure if this makes any sense, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm asking though?
Yes, hide unused columns. I think we had that, but we took it out at some point. I remember we had something for hiding unused columns, but I think it's not in this version anymore. Yeah, I don't know why we took this out actually. It was in there a year ago. It was in there for sure. But yeah, some things people never ask about, and at some point we say, okay, do we really need that?
I guess I was kind of thinking, and this is where it might not be a well-formed question. There's columns that are used, but they're not used in any. Uh, oh, I guess they're not used in any visual, right? So that's what it would be. You would have to assume that if a column is not used in a visual and it's only used in a measure calculation, you could hide it. But that would be maybe a silly assumption, and people probably wouldn't
Oh,
like that. Yeah.
that makes sense though. Yeah, sure. So what I can do is I can go here, right? And I can see which columns are only used once, for example, only used in a relationship, right? Those are the ones I might want to hide.
Right. I
Um,
mean, yeah, I guess I don't. It depends on the user has to figure out how
right,
much you want to lock it down, and if you do, that could be
right.
your perspective. I want to completely lock it down. If these columns are only used to build relationships
Yeah,
and they're not in any measures, I should just hide them.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, but still, that's probably then what you have to do manually somehow. But at least you'll be able to see, right, which ones those are if you don't know it yourself, because a lot of times you will know which are the I don't know, the relationship columns. Yeah. So now it finished loading, right? So this loaded now to the front end. So I can run again now, and we should see this update, and it should go up a little bit, the percentage. See, we're up to 85% now, since we only did one of those. And now there's 3 left with a couple hundred, 250 megabytes. So that's how I can go from, yeah, big oversized model to basically reducing
Can I?
it. Mhm.
I just keep.
Please,
I don't mean to. Anybody else has
that's good.
questions? But I don't want to take the floor from it. I'm wondering if your origin story for this tool was about size of model or about confusion, like you inherited some. Like, what brought you into building this?
Yeah, it was the measures, right? That's why it's called Measure Killer. We had a big model, and imagine it was a department of like 5 or 10 people, and a lot of people who didn't really know Power BI so much, and everybody started building stuff in the data set, building measures there. And then at some point, the head of this e-commerce department went crazy and said, "Hey, I have 100 measures, 200 measures in my data set. I have no idea what is what. Everything is a mess. The KPIs are completely random. Take out whatever we don't need actually." And then we were like, okay, well, how do we do that? And we checked out some tools at the time, but we had all kinds of special characters in the measure names, German, Ü, things like that, and it didn't really work out. And then, yeah, we started building something on our own, and somehow it went crazy from there.
How much redundancy was there in that example?
Oh, I think 80% was useless. I mean, with the biggest
Useless in
model
terms of just not valid or redundant.
not used anywhere, in anything that was
Okay.
valid for the head of the department. Like it was only used in some areas where she said, okay, this is actually, we don't need that. That's wrong. The KPIs are wrong anyway, or this report doesn't make any sense. The biggest model I heard of so far that somebody optimized with Measure Killer, I think they had 7 or 8,000 columns and measures. And it was a really old, like some legacy model that always got bigger and bigger and had like 19 gigabytes. And they were able to cut it down to 4 gigabytes. So that's always the example I'm bringing as at least the craziest one I heard so far. Yeah.
That's great. Fernando has asked, could you do a kill column example step by step to see what the program does?
The Power Query, yes.
Yeah, and Fernando, is that the kill column? And is
Because
that the only place?
the calculated columns, we can just click one button and they will go away, right?
Okay,
But the Power Query columns, those, yeah, I have to select which table I want to start with, right? And then the only thing I need to do is I need to copy the M code. I go to transform data to open up my Power Query. And then I need to remember which query it was. It's title principles. So I open up this title principles because that's where I copied the Power Query code from. And I open up the advanced editor. That's where my code is, right? And then I just select all and I hit paste of what I copied here. It added this step, hit done. I can see that it added this step, columns removed by Measure Killer, and then I just go close and apply to apply those changes. And that's it. And when this is finished, I can run Measure Killer again to get an updated view of my little summary here. To basically, because I should be able, like with this, I should be able to save 143 megabytes, even though actually, so whatever is shown here could be misleading while I'm doing this. Like when it runs this, and even if I save the file, those megabytes can be an issue because there's some caching going on. I actually just learned about this last week. I didn't know about this before with Vertipack. So I need to actually reopen the file to get the correct size. So in a lot of times it might be a little misleading. So even though removed something now, it could be still around 1.5 gigabytes, but the percentage that is correct. But the gigabytes here can be misleading when I just applied something in a query and then run an external tool again. But this should be finished soon. And then we can see that the percentage will go up and, well, the size, I don't know, it really depends because it keeps some stuff in some kind of cache or in memory or something. I don't understand it fully, to be honest. That's why I actually, to be really sure, I need to save the file, close it, and reopen it, run the tool again. Then it will always, when I open it, it has the correct size. But when I then change the queries and load new stuff, it can be misleading the size of the model, basically.
Can you open a second instance of your tool and attach to the same set data model?
It will still get the wrong stuff because in Power BI has the wrong information actually at this point because it's keeping something in cache or something. Yeah, it's weird. What else can we do? So there is this what if analysis where we have the other side of the coin, I would say. So here I can open up my model. And in this case, I have multiple reports, right? And then I can see all the tables. I can see the relationships. I can see what is used in relationships. And we have this potential savings, which if this is green, it's basically telling me if you remove this relationship, you can save 1 gigabyte. So apparently those two columns are really heavy and they're only used in that relationship. So it's giving me this what if analysis. For example, if I remove this report, I can save 27 megabytes. And this is actually the page of the data set. And then I can go down, like I can see which page, which visuals are on that page, and I open up the visual and I can see all the columns and measures that are used to build that visual. So we have the different view of the whole dependencies or however you want to call it. And I can just go down this whole tree of dependencies. Can also see if a page is hidden or not. And then just like here, open up a visual, I can see this column, this calculated column, And every calculated column has basically a normal column underneath it. And then we have a measure, and that is using that. And so I don't know, it just gives me everything that I need to build a visual, a report, a page, or even a whole report. That can be also very useful, because a lot of times, you have a client say, oh, should we take out this page? Or maybe something is used only on a page that is hidden, right, on like a testing page or something. And then you can see here, if there's something green for that testing page, maybe take it out, because you'll be able to save a little bit of space. And it makes your report a little faster, potentially.
Fernando has asked if there's some kind of undo functionality. Like if you do a kill action,
Mhm.
do you just quickly close without saving, or do you actually have some kind of undo functionality?
If I kill something here,
Well, I guess,
I don't-
yeah, I guess within the, not back in Power Query, but here in this front end, yeah.
yeah. Wait a second, I don't understand the question fully.
Fernando, I don't know if I've not read it well. He writes, is there undo functionality to reverse a killed measure, for example?
Yeah, like I can restore, right? I can restore stuff. So everything that I ever killed with Measure Killer in this like measures and calculate columns, you can
Okay.
restore that.
Yeah, that
Um,
does.
and it keeps that on this machine, or if I'm smart, I can add a OneDrive folder. And then basically I can do this all across my machines, and I can even see from where I removed something, which user that was, and I can just put it back in.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
great.
the safety, basically. So it
Let me ask
finished
you,
loading.
yeah,
Sorry.
when you were looking through this hierarchy, it seems like, are there other uses? I mean, it just gives you a way of navigating and browsing
Mhm.
what's in your file. So do you
Right.
find yourself using this to browse it, not because you're going to remove anything, but just
Mhm.
does it give you other kinds of useful information?
Yeah, I mean, you can see, for example, what is the heaviest artifact that you need to build a visual, right? You can see, because here you can see the size. So I can see the size of all the columns that I'm using to build this thing. I can see, for example, what if I'm using something only on a hidden page. That is very interesting. And if I have a shared model, I can see basically all the reports, how heavy they are, right? How much of my model is consumed by every of those live connected reports. And I can compare and see, okay, which one is like this. This just consumes very tiny amount of space from my model. But maybe there's one report that is consuming so much, and I could, I don't know, reduce the size of my model by, I don't know, 80% if I just took out that report, and maybe that report is not that useful anyway. Like maybe it's in a dev folder, or it's not really production relevant, or there's all kinds of stuff you can basically come up with if you play around with this, I think. Something else that might be interesting is that something can be used only in a relationship. So imagine I have, let's see what we have here. So imagine this table here, 4 columns, 4 out of 6 columns are unused, yeah. So, and then those two, I can check where those are used, right? And in this case, I know actually, and I can double check this here. Wait a second. So here, actually, this is a little better. Here we have the same table, right? And those 4 are unused, and then those 2 are used. And you can see those are only used in relationships. So the whole table is actually useless besides those 2 relationships. But what is the benefit of those relationships if everything else is unused? There's no measure, there's no visual built on top of this. So it might only be that this is like some kind of bridge table that maybe I needed to have the filters run through it or something. But actually, if those relationships do not basically fulfill that, I can take out the whole table, because what's the point of a relationship if there's no calculation or anything going on? So even if something is used, you might be able to take it out if the use itself is not really important, you know.
Kevin, were you going to make a comment on that? I see you on.
Well, I did have a question. I wasn't going to make a comment specific to that. So how do you configure all the objects that you're bringing in, like the reports, the data sets, data flows, etc.? Do they have to, you have to connect them to a workspace on the cloud, and they have to be on the cloud to get picked up here?
Everything here is offline, right? So I put in the data set and I put in all the reports that are connected live in the service. And Measure Killer doesn't know about any of this. It just takes whatever you give it and you select the data set, and everything else it assumes it has a live connection. It's taking only the report layout from those.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
That's how it works in the offline version. But I can also
Okay.
show in the online version, it's smarter.
There's an online version too, a
Yes.
cloud version. Okay.
So in this case, see it triggering an OAuth, and then I just open up basically, I don't need Power BI Desktop anymore. And now it's getting all the premium workspaces in my tenant because we're gonna do an XMLA connection. And now I select a data set here in one of my workspaces that I wanna analyze. And I hit next, and you see I'm running this now actually as an admin. There's two modes for the online. One is as a normal user, just workspace, you have access to a couple of workspaces, or you're a tenant admin. But the coolest thing, find stuff where you don't even have access to with your user, right? It can scan the whole tenant basically um, for artifacts that are connected to this model. And you can see that, for example, this paginated report here in the shady workspace, I don't even have access to that with my personal user. That's what's shown here. But since I'm an admin, I can run the scanner API to get everything.
Okay, got it. Interesting.
So basically in the online version, it will automatically get Power BI reports and paginated reports that are connected to the model. Because here we want to analyze a golden data set, right? And make sure that doesn't break down and optimize that. Make it smaller without having any consequences, basically. And actually, I'm seeing here no personal workspaces. Please turn it on in the settings. So actually, I need to do that now because this is not recommended, but I would say it's a good idea to do this because what if somebody built something in a personal workspace? Don't you want to know about that? At least I want to know about it. So I usually have this on. Because yeah, that's also interesting. That people would build a report in a personal workspace on top of my productive model. And now we have it here. See, this is a report in a personal workspace. And we only show this here. We cannot really analyze it, but we at least show that there's something going on.
Got it. So one other question. So going back to the, I guess, the offline version, can you go to that folder you were showing when you copy
Yep.
in the various PBIX files? So you're saying that when you run the kill measures, it's going to kill the measures in each of those PBIX files. So when you copy them out of that folder, they're
only from the model.
Okay, only from the model.
From the data set. Like any other external tool, right? If you open up, I don't know, a tabular editor or something on a Power BI file, it can write, it will not do it directly to the PBXL, but it will do it through the Tom library.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you open up your data model in the PBIX file, it won't have those particular measures or whatever you deleted in there anymore.
Exactly. So as soon as you kill it through Measure Killer, you save and they're gone. The only way to bring it back is through the restore in Measure Killer to write it back to the model and save again.
And then you restore it, and then it'll appear again.
Exactly.
And you can save it back. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's how it works. So, but here we get a full lineage, right? So we get all the reports that are connected. And if you compare this with the Power BI lineage, this is much better because the Power BI lineage only gives you so much. You can see here, it tells me, oh, there's 3 more items with limited access because I don't have access to all workspaces in the tenant. So it tells me there's more. Even though I'm an admin, I don't see everything, right? This is really bad. I can see all the workspaces I have access to, what is built there, but there is something missing where I just don't have access. In that case, for example, it's maybe this one or something else. So here we can really make sure we get everything. And then it's up to you maybe to take out 1 or 2 things, but you can keep everything that you want to keep. That is important to not basically break down when we remove stuff from this data set. Also, what we have here in the online version is composite models built on top of our data set, right? So if somebody's doing direct query downstream model on top of this, and even if the person is like adding stuff, still it pulls maybe some columns or measures from here and is building a report with that. Even if there's stuff renamed here, we're checking those changes. And we want to make sure that this report will be alive once we optimize our model. So even if there's a composite models or even multiple composite models, those are taken into account. And I can add local files here. So I can add Power BI files, PBIP, anything, paginated reports, or even analyze in Excel. Ooh, see, I can drag and drop files here because, yeah, what if the finance people are doing analyze in Excel and basically we don't want to break their report. I can drag and drop that here, but I need to do this manually. And then I can run this. Now it's triggering me to grant access to this shady workspace because I don't have access to that workspace. So it will give me contributor to that workspace temporarily just to get the metadata. And then it will say, okay, I'm done. Do you want to restore the original permissions? Like you had no access before? And I'm just going to say, yes, remove my access again. I don't want to have access to this workspace. And now it's done. And I get basically the same thing as before, just on top of all those reports. And I can see where everything is used, even like it's used in a paginated report or, yeah, all across the thing. And I can see that I still have 40% that I can take out from this model.
And what is your role that you were able to get access to the shady workspace?
Fabric admin, Power Platform admin, or global admin. I think they're really the admin roles. Yeah.
Okay.
If I run it as a normal user, I can run this mod, but then it just gets whatever I have access to. I have to have at least contributor. If I have viewer, it's just not enough to analyze the models. Yeah. So that's all about optimizing one model. And then the coolest thing, if we still have some time, I want to show you this because this is really the coolest thing we have built so far. Here we analyze a whole Power BI tenant. And I know it's pretty crazy, but this is basically a tenant level scan that we're doing. And we really built this, especially over the last few weeks, we really built this to run in a tenant with thousands of workspaces and thousands of reports and models. So I'm just going to select everything here. So I have all my workspaces here. As you can see, I can see if it's pro or premium, how many reports we have, whatever, my access level permissions, which capacity, and I can already see some cool metadata, like, I don't know, who has access to that workspace, whatever. I just want to analyze everything and then we can see what we get. So now it's also granting me access to the workspaces I don't have access to yet. And now let's see how fast this thing can run. And yeah, so it will now analyze, you can see it will analyze all the reports and all the models in the tenant. and it really runs like crazy. And some things also throw errors, some things we just cannot analyze. But most things work. So
it's funny, it generates so much data. If you guys toyed with actually creating a data set of the metadata?
Yes, here actually we have that. Whatever I get here, we can export this as a huge JSON file, and then you get everything, like all the access to all the workspaces, the names of the workspaces, the reports inside them, the models, the size of the models. Even we have all the custom visuals in all the reports. This is really crazy stuff. But we also have most of it in the UI. And you can see that the bigger models, like some of them have thousands of columns and measures, they take some time, but everything else is going pretty quick. Yeah, but it's almost done. And here, I didn't show this here, we just get an overview of our tenant, basically, how many models and how many reports we have in our tenant, how much is in personal workspaces and things like this. So you can see it took 82 seconds to run in our tenant. So even if your tenant is hundreds or thousands of models, it will run in an hour or less. It's pretty amazing.
Are you aware of
So,
any other tool that does that kind of inventory of a tenant?
no.
Wow. Wow.
This is also something we just released like 6 weeks ago. And we're still trying to, like last week, we spent optimizing this. Before it took 400, 440 seconds. Now we're down to 80. So that's as far as we could go with tweaking the API, throttling, manipulating all this stuff, you know, seeing how far it can get us. But anyway, so what do you get? You get all the models here. You can see all the models and you can see the reports that are connected. Okay, that's maybe kind of easy, you would say. But what I can do here is I can, for example, again, search for the personal workspaces, and I can see everything that is built inside personal workspaces. And you can see here, is it a personal? But then there's also something in a normal workspace. So that is a model in a normal Fabric trial capacity workspace, a premium workspace. And I built a report in my personal workspace on top of this. So that's also for the admins quite interesting, I think, what people build there, so that you can see here. But the really cool stuff is, for example, in the models tab, all semantic models in their whole tenant. See, we can have the size, we have all the sizes, we have the number of calculated columns, number of reports connected, who is in charge, and you can see this is our criminal model and report. 90 megabytes local date tables out of 170 megabytes model size. And it has 1,400 calculated columns. I mean, of course, most of them, it's the local date tables, but even the normal tables, you can see some of them have 150, that's the calendar. But like, what's going on? This guy is building hundreds. This is a real world example, actually. Yeah, so I can search for local date tables on a tenant level here, and you can see I can get it immediately, all the models, which workspaces, who are the bad guys. Or I can do the same for many-to-many relationships. Ooh, that's another one. All those models that have that. Or even, I don't know, one-to-one is also something we're flagging now because it's not ideal, as we know. Any other idea what we should flag here? What is a problem in the models, at least?
Nothing for me. This is a great start. Terrific. And this is, you're planning on making this part of your free version?
No. So
Oh,
the online stuff, sorry. I mean, the online stuff, so everything in the Power BI service is part of the paid version. Yeah, that's
gotcha.
yeah, because we have 3 people working on this, so I cannot only have a free version, unfortunately. One more thing I want to show is the report section. So here I can have all the reports in the tenant. You can see also here I just sorted by the number of visuals, And I open this up and I can see, whoa, 1,000 visuals, right? On one page, this guy built 267 visuals. What the hell? 130 bookmarks or action buttons, how it's called. 68 cards. This is really crazy. So if this report is creating problems, I know why. And here we have the only, and as far as I know, the only tenant level search for custom visuals that anyone has. So I can look for, I don't know, Azure map or something. Boom. I can search my whole tenant for custom visuals, right? And actually, we even have, now we just added this today to see if a visual, where is this? Oh yeah, if a visual is certified or uncertified. So now you can see I put in uncertified, and I can only see the custom visuals that are uncertified. I can also collapse, and then I can get maybe all the reports, or I can see the workspaces or something. And I can do the same for, I don't know, certified. And then we have this little blue icon here for all the certified custom visuals.
Ed, can I clarify, when a custom visual is stated to be certified or uncertified, does that mean it's reviewed by Microsoft and they say, yeah, this checks out, it's compatible with Power BI?
Yeah, I think partly yes, but the main thing I think is that it does not send out any data. It cannot send out any data.
Send out data as in, what do
Like
you
if you
mean by
pull,
that?
like it cannot send an API call to fetch like a location of some, like it's basically a local visual. It cannot communicate outside with any APIs. It's like safe, basically.
Okay, like from I guess this information
Security.
security. Okay,
Yes,
all right. Okay.
exactly. Yeah, so you can see here, those are the ones that are uncertified and the blue ones are the ones that are certified. So let's actually look at the, yeah, so that was just something we added this week. Yeah, any questions?
This has been great. The floor is open if anybody wants to come off mute. Gregor, I got to tell you, I don't remember yet. Go ahead. Sorry, somebody's got something.
Oh, sorry, I had one other question. Can you make this work with a tabular model in SSAS?
To some extent, yes. So there is a way to do it right now with the offline. Like if you
Okay.
if you have an SSAS on-prem or Azure Analysis Services.
On-prem.
The problem with on-prem is that we don't really get the information of the model because you just have a live connection, right? So
Right.
when you analyze it in Power BI Desktop, we cannot read the model. That's one problem. But we're building a new mode for analysis services, unfortunately. And that's mainly for Azure Analysis Services, but
Of
it
course.
might also be able to do it on-prem. And where we build basically to enter like a server, and then it connects to that server and gets the model from there, and then you put in the reports. It's like a hybrid way because now we can only read a Power BI model. So if you have a connection to Azure Analysis Services and you do a live connection, you can switch, I think, to direct query, right? But in
Okay.
the on-prem, you cannot do that. And that's why only if you do direct query, we can get the information of the model. In live connection, we cannot. And that's the issue with the on-prem so far.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. But maybe this hybrid mode will also work for on-prem. I don't know exactly yet. We haven't really, we are like 10 or 20% done there only. So it will take another month or so to have this, or even 2 months. We had one more question before, right?
I think I was just filling air. I was just
Oh,
saying, because I know you were at the group, you said a year or two ago, and there had been developments since then. And I don't know if I was at our meeting when you presented the first time, but
right.
it just, you know, just being 2 years later into using the tool, I have more appreciation for, even if you presented the same thing, right? I'd have more
Yeah,
appreciation for it because I've got more maturity in the tool, right? So
right. I mean,
thank
a
you.
lot of the modes haven't existed back then, right? So it was mostly single report or maybe one, the offline shared model or something. Yeah, I don't remember.
It's
Cool.
great.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, you made a lot of progress. It's looking really good. And thanks for taking over. I was having a couple coughing fits, so I stayed on mute still. So
I'm sorry to hear you're so sick, Kevin.
it'll get better. That's the way
Yes,
life
it
is.
will. Yes, it will.
Let me go ahead and stop the recording.